do not allow me to do certain things. I've learned I cannot do them, but there are certain things that I can do. And one of the things I have always had a strong feeling about our country and what is really important. And so I'm going to share some of those things with you tonight. For one of the things, some of you may regard it as a handicap. It is not. On my next birthday, in 2 months, a few days over 2 months, I will be a quarter of a century old. That is not going to stand in my way. So that counts a few of us here that are nearly a quarter of a century old. That comes out to 75. So 3/4 of that century, yeah. I'd like to think of it. But anyway, some of the things that have happened in my life is I was a single parent with a sophomore in high school son. Somebody said something to him, and the next school day, he went to school and dropped out of school. I didn't get a call from the school board. He pretended like he was going to school. And I knew from talking to school, I could not do anything about it, because legally, he could do it. And so I went to a school board member meeting, a school board member who I thought would be most compassionate about this. It was in Corpus Christi, Texas, one school board for the whole city that is about the same size of the population of the Reading area. She said, I'm going to do something about this, and it may take a while, but I will get back to you. A few weeks later, she called me, and unanimously the school board decided no child could ever leave school sign themselves out of school without the parents being consulted. One person did that. I was not a community leader. I was a mother who cared. I cared whether my son or my daughter or any other student was able to continue their education. And obviously, we went through many issues and problems and challenges after that. I am here to tell you, my son has a good job. It wasn't without many, many struggles and trials. Another thing I did, I moved here to the Reading area, lived in Wyomissing, and I'm an Iowa farm girl. I decided that, of course, when Music Man is on anywhere, that's an Iowa play, I traveled to see that. I went over to Wilson High School, and I saw Music Man, but the sound system was horrible. These kids and all the people working with that play had put so many hours into work, and the microphone system did not work. For the next 6 months, I could hardly go to sleep without thinking about that. So I went to a school board meeting, and I told the school board that these children, if they're in the classes that encourage them for public speaking, for being before a child, these talents that they work on throughout that time are important enough. They will use them in every aspect of their life. I came with a small check. It was the best I could afford to do. I didn't even live in that school district. Within 6 months, the school board, with my one visit, put in over $50,000 into a sound system. The next play they put on was The Wizard of Oz. Everything was perfect. They had to schedule extra nights to put that play on, and every one of them was sold out. That's what one person can do. In Texas, when I moved to Texas, I saw that Democrats had like 5 or 6 people up for each primary. We're going to primaries now. We know in some cases there's no competition, but Democrats were in charge for the most part of all the offices in Texas. So I went to a caucus. As you may have noticed, like in Iowa, where I grew up, they have caucuses, and they vote with people in their little area of town, they vote to who they want to be the next candidate for the President of the United States. I walked in the room, it was a tie. I walked in the room, changed parties, broke the tie for that whole precinct had to go for the candidate that I voted for. Don't you love it? And so I have learned that one person makes a huge, huge difference. Now, I want to tell you some of the things that you can do. I have nearsighted, so I have to look at my notes. First of all, if you're a praying person, pray. Pray about our community, pray for our candidate, pray that they get on the right track. Keep track of them and say, what are they not saying that you really want to know? But I went to one candidate who was actually here a couple of months ago and told all the qualifications that that candidate had, found it extremely impressive. Then I went to a meeting and I saw the same person talking. And that person said absolutely nothing about elimination of property taxes. Now, how many of you in this audience are interested in elimination of property taxes? I see it. I agree. I cannot afford to live in Pennsylvania with what money I had saved my retirement if I have to pay the $6,000 property tax. That's half of my Social Security. And so I'm all for that. I see you are too. Now, nothing is going to change unless we get involved. And so pray first, because I know from my experience of many years of being a single parent that God answered those prayers when we give it to Him and say we're trusting Him, but I'm going to do my part. So one of the things you can do is, like you're doing, attend the Berks County Patriots meeting. I will tell you that the cost of each meeting we have here, we pay rent. It's several $100s. Now, we're going to pass a bucket when we have a chance. Now, the old days of putting $1 in a bucket at church just don't work anymore. And I know from surveys I just read last night that 3,700 churches of the mainline churches have closed within the last year. But the new news is 4,000 new churches have been established. Why does this happen? Because people don't get involved. Involvement is the key. We all have talents. And so when the bucket goes around double or triple, or get your checkbook out and write a check, this goes, none of the board members, none of the people who speak here get a dime. Occasionally, you know, the cost of driving to Harrisburg is reimbursed to the driver. But otherwise, nobody gets a dime. Many of our volunteers have been volunteers since this organization started. And that was about the time that Katie Abram was at Arlen Specter town hall meeting. And we saw all over the country, Oprah and Chris Matthews and all these television stations locally showed Katie Abrams said to Arlen Specter, "You have awakened a sleeping giant." Those of you here, in your own way, with your own talents, are sleeping giants. Now, I'll tell you another thing about churches. I've worked in churches all my life, and what we were always told, that it's not the pastors that people come to church. It is the individuals who invite. So inviting is critical for our organization. You can volunteer. There are lots of areas you can volunteer in. And I promise you that if you volunteer for this organization, you will not be alone. You will be working with other people side by side that have experience. Together, we can be terrific. Invite others. Why? Your involvement counts. Voices count. All of us are given these talents to make a difference. You are here. You are interested. Vote, of course. Vote in the primaries. And get other people to register. You have made a choice to be here. Your choice indicates you want to do something. You want the Second Amendment rights. Is that true? Yeah, you want to keep our Second Amendment rights. You want your children and grandchildren to be able to live close to you instead of having to go out of state to get a good paying job. Their employment makes a difference. They have to go, you'd like them to live right here. Everyone here has a story to tell. Even a 5-year-old has a story to tell, what's important to them. If we don't do it, who will? Invite people to come to meet the candidates night next month. This is their chance to meet the candidates. And so fill the bucket tonight. What you can. Your first obligation, obviously, is to your church. But this is important. And so I thank you for this time. Get involved, and I'm bringing a yellow tablet to the back. And if you can tell me one area that you're particularly interested in, I'll write it down on the tablet. We want you to share in the excitement of what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. Folks, up next, we have Andrew Patterson. Andrew is a coalitions director for the Republican Party of Pennsylvania. Andrew had contacted us and requested to speak for a few minutes. With the election coming up, we thought that would be appropriate, so let's welcome Andrew.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me, Sam. Appreciate it. And I just have a few comments to make about what the Republican Party here in Pennsylvania is doing for 2016. But before I get to that real quick, I do want to give you a reminder, as some of the other speakers have mentioned, the primary on April 26th, obviously we'll be voting for president and senator and all the way down to your state representative. You'll also be voting for delegates to the National Convention. And I tell folks that here in Pennsylvania, 54 of the 71 total delegates that are going to the National Convention are uncommitted delegates. That means they are in no way required to vote for anyone in particular or vote for the winner of the primary here in Pennsylvania on April 26th. It's up to the delegate to vote for who they choose. So please think about who you're going to be selecting for delegate. You have 3 per congressional district, and then 17 total come from the statewide group. Those folks are committed to the winner of the Pennsylvania primary, but again, the other 54 are not. So I just wanted to give a reminder for that. And again, March 28th is the last day to register to vote as Republican to vote in the primary for this April. So real briefly as well, my name is Andrew Patterson, as Sam mentioned. I work as Coalitions Director for the Republican Party of Pennsylvania. And coalitions is sort of a broad term, and I don't necessarily like to use it because it is so vague, but my job is really to focus in on a couple of groups in 2016 and make sure that number 1, we're getting them registered to vote, and then number 2, turn them out to the polls. And so those two groups that I'm focusing on are evangelicals, and then, or social conservatives, you could say, probably in a broader context, and then also Second Amendment activists and sportsmen as well. And what we love to do is not just have sort of a network statewide of names on a spreadsheet, but people who are engaged in their community within those specific groups. So lately we've really been working gun shows, gun bashes, doing voter registration, having folks sign petitions in support of the Second Amendment. Just a couple, last weekend actually, we were up in Carbon County at a big gun show up there, and we were flipping Democrats to Republicans like crazy. A lot of you probably have seen there's been a couple of news stories here in Pennsylvania about, in the past couple of months, over 50,000 Democrats have switched to Republican here in Pennsylvania. It's a huge number. Yeah, clap for that, absolutely. It's really exciting. There's such enthusiasm for our side headed into this election, so we're trying to keep that going. And then on the social conservative front, I'd love to work with anybody who's willing to get engaged into their local churches, so whether it be a fish fry event or a Christian concert that church might be holding, or any other specific event that a religious group might be putting on, doing voter registration work, making sure those folks have information about our Republican candidates and their views, so that they know who they'll be voting for when they go out to the polls. So that's what we're looking to work on. If you're interested in learning more and talking with me, I'll be hanging around. I'll be at the back of the room there. I have a table set up with a lot of good information, some sign-up sheets. I have petitions if you'd like to sign in support of the Second Amendment or in favor of religious liberties. Please stop by. I have some candidate literature as well as my business cards. So love to talk to you. And again, thank you again for having me. Appreciate it.
Excellent. Folks, on the same theme, we have Chet Byler with us this evening. He's running for the U.S. Congress 16th District against Joe Pitts, who is retiring. He's from Lancaster County. He's a constitutional conservative. He's here, so we said we'd extend the courtesy and give him a few minutes. So let's welcome Chet Byler.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you very much. So yeah, I live about 1 hour from here down in Manheim in Lancaster County, and as Sam said, Congressman Joe Pitts has decided to retire. Now, not a whole lot of Berks County is in the 16th Congressional District, but it does cover Wyomissing and some other areas, and those of you who are in the 16th, I want to invite you to consider supporting me in this contested primary. And those of you who do not live in the 16th, because it's a contested primary where you can make a difference in shaping Congress, I invite you to come on over and help us man one of the polls that is in the 16th Congressional District. And here's why. As you know, not all Republicans are alike. Some are more inclined to give in and go along with the establishment, perhaps support big business, in bed with big government to squeeze out small businesses. There is a very clear distinction in this election between me and sitting Senator Smucker. And those of you who are in the 16th Congressional District may be getting some direct mail pieces, perhaps more than you'd like to see. And then you will also notice that there may be some things on radio and TV about what is different between me and Senator Smucker. I gave many of you our brochure, and I want to take just 1 minute to tell you a little bit about myself and what I stand for. First of all, I grew up on a dairy farm in Lancaster County in a large family with 4 boys, 4 girls down in Gap. I was actually born old order Amish, and when I was 4 years old, my dad sold Buster and we got a Nash Rambler. So that was our transition to the new world, if you will. I graduated from Lancaster County High School back in 1981, and at that time our family farm, we had a fire, we lost everything, had to move in with relatives, and my first business experience was helping my mom develop a cleaning business. And I worked at Donnelly Printing down there. 2 years later, I got a scholarship to go to Pepperdine University out in California. Had the pleasure, the privilege of working with the West Coast White House advance team. Whenever Nancy Reagan would come out, we'd pick her up on the tarmac out there at LAX and take her where she needed to go. I also had the privilege of working, Arthur Laffer was on staff at Pepperdine as a professor, and met Milton Friedman. These shaped my beliefs. I'm a constitutional conservative, free market, Republican who, I'm not a Republican first, I'm a constitutionalist first. And I am running for Congress primarily to restore economic opportunity. We have too much special interest and bureaucratic noise holding people back as individuals and as small businesses. I believe we have to stop bankrupting America. So I will, when in Congress, work with the Freedom Caucus to stand up against the establishment and not spend more money than we take in. Also, I am very serious about strengthening national security and protecting our constitutional freedoms, as I said a bit ago. Now, part of protecting our constitutional freedoms has to do